So today we're going to be talking about the barriers to virtual resistance. This is Arthur Carmazzi, best-selling author and currently ranked as the #1 thought leader in organizational culture in the world. And let's look at the barriers to virtual resistance. But before we get into that, it's like, well, why do we need resilience in virtual teams and virtually working, right? Well, think about it, okay? If you are going to essentially be productive, if you are going to be innovative, if you are going to solve some big problems and you're going to basically make your organizations and other people around you more effective and kind of, build it so that you can actually get stuff, well, that's where resilience comes in. And that's because right now we're still in a time of change. And this whole COVID thing, you've got things are working out and then they're not. And then things are open and then they're closed. And so you got all kinds of things going on where there's still a lot more uncertainty, and especially there's still a lot of virtual working out there. So the #1 barrier, would be the lack of diversity. Now, lack of diversity basically means that you are bored. Why? Because you're going to the same office, which is your desk, and it could be in a room or it could be there next to where your kids are screaming or something, and it just kind of gets a little bit old, right? So lack of diversity, meaning that you don't get to go out, you don't get to kind of, experience new places and stuff and, even traffic. So these things are creating a lack of diversity, which essentially leads to boredom, which basically diminishes the potential to think innovatively. Okay, that's one. #2 is the lack of hope, which essentially equals despair. Hope is connected to the potential of something bigger, something better, something grander in your life, and it is connected to a lot of different emotions, not just one. And so this element of hope could be connected to success, it could be connected to relationships, it could be connected to whatever is important to you. And because there's a lot of things that just aren't happening in the same way. You've got things that seem to happen and then, or maybe are going to happen and then they don't. And that, of course, kind of brings you back to this thing of where, you feel that maybe, it's not going to happen because, you've already had hope many times and it didn't work out. Okay, which of course that affects your emotional element of feeling gratitude and all kinds of things, which of course definitely increases your ability to make decisions, good decisions anyway, and also move forward, because when you don't have hope, it is difficult to move forward, which essentially leads to despair, which is also connected to the #3 barrier, and that is the lack of connection. The lack of connection leads to essentially isolation. And when we feel isolated, that also affects hope. And of course, it affects in general our ability to kind of feel like we're part of a team, part of a group. And so all of these factors affect our potential ability to essentially be resilient, but more importantly, the result of that resilience is to achieve greater things in our lives and for our organizations. And this, of course, brings us to the final barrier of resilience, which essentially is the lack of contribution. See, as human beings, we want to feel useful, we want to be useful, we want to be the kind of people that actually have value. And all of this is drastically affected by our emotional sense of contribution. Are we contributing? Are we somehow valuable enough for people to listen to us? And are we valuable enough to, add value to other people and to organizations, all these things? This is a very important factor in our personal well-being. And of course, all of these combined definitely affect our mental health. And when we are in a virtual situation, well, these are affected, unless, of course, you create gamified work processes, or at least basically find ways to connect people and make things fun. Because remember, diversity is creating unique and different ways of, well, basically doing things. Now, when you add connection, then you connect people in different ways of doing things, which can basically be kind of fun, right? And of course, now when you're also adding in the element of value and you can show measurable ability to achieve different things, and you combine that with mixing it with other people, and then all of that, of course, connects to hope. Because once you've started contributing, once you have this diversity, once you have that connection, well, then that perpetuates hope into bigger and better things, which of course creates more connection, more value, and more potential awesomeness for yourself and your organization. So gamification is one of the best ways that we know how to do this, and we'll talk more about that in the next video. This is Arthur Karmazis wishing you great success.